I've defended a lot of controversial Sopranos characters on this channel. Carmela, AJ, and even Janice Soprano. Someone actually commented and said that I'm a glass half full person, and that I can see the good in even the most vile characters. But the one character that I will never, ever defend is that piece of shit Tony Soprano's cousin. I can't even say his name.
Tony, Uncle, whatever.
Uncle Al.
Alright, memes aside, there is a sizable portion of the fandom that hates Tony Blundetto. And unlike other characters like Janice or AJ, there's no obvious reason why. On the surface, he's another funny mobster like Paulie or Ralphie, and he's played by the popular actor Steve Buscemi. He should be a fan favorite, but he's actually one of the reasons why Season 5 is looked down on as one of the weaker seasons. Tony B is one of the rare examples on the show of failed writing. He had the potential to be one of the strongest characters in the show, being tied to several very thematic storylines and conflicts. But in this video, we're going to explore how mistakes on the part of the writers ruined this otherwise great character, and made him one of the few characters that people genuinely hated.
He's a good kid, your cousin, huh? Smart.
Fucking weirdo, you ask me.
Real quick before we get into the video, I just want to thank everyone who's subscribed to this channel. I am so close to 100,000 subscribers, and I can't wait to celebrate that milestone with all of you. At 50k, we did a Gabagool mukbang, so we're gonna have to top that this time around. If you're not subscribed, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button and help us get to 100k. Either way though, thanks for the support, and let's get back to the video.
I should not have to be coming here, hat in my hand, reminding you about your duty to that man.
Tony Blundetto is introduced in Season 5 as a cousin of Tony Soprano. The two Tonys grew up together as brothers, being close to the same age. He's been serving a 16-year prison sentence, and is released as part of the wave of gangsters getting out of prison, like Phil Leotardo and Feech LaManna. Now, here is where we get into the first problem that fans have with Tony Blundetto. He's said to have been one of Tony's closest family members, being more like a brother to him than even Christopher was. However, this is the first time we've ever heard about the character, and he feels like he came out of nowhere.
How come we never met you before?
I've been away on business.
I never even heard of you.
Now, while I think that's a fair criticism, and I wish that they had referenced the character in earlier seasons like they did with Feech, we have to acknowledge that this is not the first time they've done that. Both Richie Aprile and Ralph Cifaretto are introduced out of nowhere, despite their long relationships with Tony. It's just the nature of television writing, where not everything is planned out from the very beginning. And for what it's worth, Tony B's mother Quintina is introduced in Season 2, so there's that.
Take Aunt Quinn with you, the other fucker miserable. Done my part, that's all you get from me.
My sister Quintina won't fly.
So throw out in the fucking tarmac!
After Tony B gets out of prison, Tony wants to bring him into the family. However, Tony B wants to go straight, and has decided to become a massage therapist. He gets a job at a laundry service while he studies for his exam, not only earning his certification, but also a business opportunity with his boss, Kim. It seems like his life is going perfect, and he even has a loving and supportive girlfriend on top of it. However, after finding some money in the street, Tony B starts to give in to the temptations of mob life. He starts gambling and partying, and loses interest in working hard. This culminates with him getting into a fight with Kim out of nowhere, ruining his chances at a massage business. He then joins Tony as part of their crime family.
It's hard doing business with strangers.
Here is the second problem that people have with Tony B. He seems to turn on a dime, going from being passionate and hardworking to being explosive and reckless in the course of a single episode. I could totally see a storyline where Tony B slowly devolves from his principles and gives into the allure of the mob. After all, we see other characters like Tony and Christopher do the same thing. The problem is how fast the transformation is in the show, which is why I feel like fans did not believe in this turn of events. By the way, since people are going to ask, there's a theory that Tony was behind the money that fell into Tony B's lap. The idea is that Tony lured him back into the mob by tempting him with the mob lifestyle. While I think this would be a great way to explain the sudden turn of events, there's no evidence for this theory, and some commentary from episode director Peter Bogdanovich seems to confirm that it was meant to be an act of fate. But again, this Deus Ex Machina moment just contributes to the feeling of randomness that the audience has when it comes to Tony B, and I think it hurt his character even more.
From now on, anytime somebody steps in a pile of shit, it will be known as a blundetto. To the blundetto!
After joining the family, Tony B starts to resent his cousin. While he was in prison, his daughter became a drug addict and ran away from home. His wife divorced him, and he has to take care of his twin sons while living in his mother's house. He sees the extravagance that Tony lives in, and how lucky he is to have his family still intact, and wants more because of it. He decides to take a job from Little Carmine's faction of the Lupertazzi family and whack Joey Peeps, one of Johnny Sack's men. Though this goes against Tony's orders to stay neutral in the conflict, Tony feels guilty over the fact that Tony B went to prison and he didn't. Instead of punishing him, he rewards him with control of their casino, though he knows in his heart that this is going to lead to trouble. And it does when Johnny Sack has Angelo Gareppe whacked. Angelo was one of Tony B's closest friends in prison, and the murder sends him into a rage. He goes off on his own and gets revenge by shooting Phil Leotardo and killing his brother Billy. This action proves that Tony was lying to Johnny Sack, putting him in a precarious position with the Lupertazzis when John takes over as boss.
You either deliver that prick to my door, or I will rain a shitstorm down on you and your family like you have never fucking seen.
The murder of Billy Leotardo has fueled a million memes, but it also reveals another hole in the writing. Tony says that his cousin has a problem with rage, and that's why he did what he did. But we don't see that consistently with his character. Yes, he flips out at Kim out of nowhere, but he's also the voice of reason when Tony is debating on killing Christopher.
Motherfucker.
Tony, come on! Listen to somebody else for a change.
Fuck him.
Tony, try it my way. Listen to me.
The reason he did the Joey Peeps job wasn't rage, but jealousy over Tony's family and wealth. And before that, he showed no signs of acting crazy. Even in the scene before he attacks the Leotardos, he's more annoyed than anything else. Overall, Tony B's characterization is all over the place, which is why he feels so strange to the audience.
He knew what he was gonna do, and he sat there right in his mother's house and pretended. Lied right to my face.
And that's not the only strange thing about Tony Blundetto. The show makes a point of talking about his genius-level IQ, which really doesn't go anywhere. I mean, I guess we see hints of his intelligence when he's talking with Meadow about prison reform, but ultimately it just feels like an extraneous detail. And that, along with his interest in massage therapy, just makes him come off as random and less believable as a mobster. Again, I think that all of these character ideas could have worked if it had played out in a more natural way over more episodes. We could have seen Tony Blundetto slowly slide into the toxicity of the mob world, going from an idealistic and controlled person to a wild animal, just like we saw with Tony Soprano over the course of the show. The episode titled Two Tonys even draws attention to this, and the parallels between Tony Uncle Johnny and Tony Uncle Al were obviously an intentional part of the season. However, the writers wrote themselves into a corner when it came to Tony B. Steve Buscemi was originally signed on for 2 seasons, and the character was clearly meant to be involved with both seasons 5 and 6. However, Terrence Winter confirmed that after they had Tony B kill Billy and put the families on the brink of war, they had no choice but to scrap their original plans and have Tony kill his own cousin.
Steve Buscemi, I think we kind of backed ourselves into a corner story-wise with him. I remember big debates in the writer's room, that he had to go. I mean, there was no question that he had to go. I mean, and anything less than that would feel phony.
Now, this is not the first time that they've had to change their plans midway through a story. Actor Nancy Marchand's death at the beginning of Season 3 forced them to scrap a storyline they had about Livia and the airline tickets. However, in that instance, I think it worked out fine, as Livia's sudden death was actually a plot point they had for season 1 that they never ended up doing. Thus, the sudden change serves its original purpose, to deny Tony the confrontation with his mother that's been building his entire life.
And originally the mother was going to die. He was going to, I suppose, he was going to...
Kill her.
No, at first he was going to kill her. Then, once he found out, he was going to go over to confront her about it and to kill her, but she was already going to be dead, so he would never have his cathartic moment.
Mm-hmm.
Then Nancy Marchand turned out to be as great as she was. It became a television series, and there was absolutely no appetite to kill her.
Right.
Because we wanted to keep her going.
Mm-hmm.
However, in the case of Tony Blundetto, the scrapping of his 2-season story arc only hurt the character and the season as a whole. I really think that if Tony B's storyline played out naturally over 2 seasons, it would have been the best the show had to offer. Tony B was so connected to Tony's feelings of guilt and regret over the job he missed, it would have been an incredible device to explore his feelings over how his life turned out. Not to mention, it was also the origin of his panic attacks, the central premise of the series.
Alright, the night he got pinched, I had a fucking panic attack, alright? From my mother, goddammit. I didn't even know what it was then.
Tony B's slow and steady decline into the mafia life would have also shown us how the life lures people in and destroys them. With other characters like Christopher, we saw how people intentionally ruin their lives by joining organized crime. It would have been cool to see someone trying to go straight, but inevitably fail through both external sabotage and their own personal flaws, similar to what we see with Janice in Anger Management. Ultimately, Tony Blundetto's problem wasn't one of his own. He was a victim of writing mistakes, one of the few the show ever made, and he was one of the biggest missed opportunities for me, as I think he really could have been a wonderful addition to the show. But let me know your thoughts on Tony Blundetto in the comments, and stay tuned for more content coming soon. I could have called him Ichabod Crane, but I didn't. Matt Joyce, Uncle Mike, Sam Cedarland, Celery Man, Countess von Zarevich, Admiral, Neil Varma, Juan Jaramillo, and Cheshire.